So I'm not actually using my PA license. I'm just using the information that I've learned from like years and years of working as a fertility PA on both the male and the female side. And I am essentially
Every great business starts with a problem that needs solving. And for PAs and NPs, we have like a unique perspective that allows us to really uncover those problems for many people. Hi, I'm Michelle. I'm a PA. And on this channel, I'm always looking for incredible PAs and NPs who are out there redefining our professions. Well, this video today is actually the conclusion of my two-part interview with Jessica Boone, who is a fertility medicine PA who also founded her own online business called Fortitude Fertility. Jessica shows us behind the scenes of how she went from a PA who identified a problem and a need to a business owner, a successful business owner. Now, if you've ever had an entrepreneurial itch, or you're just wondering what else can we do with our licenses and with our experience, then you definitely need to stay tuned and watch this video. Tell us a little bit about what you were seeing that was kind of a problem with fertility medicine, which then led you to start your business.
Yeah, so I started off practicing in the REI side of things, which is the female fertility side. Right out of PA school, I kind of stumbled into the profession, and I was a naive little baby PA fresh out of PA school. And the practice that I worked at was primarily cash based. So meaning insurance didn't dictate how we did our care. And so I had the luxury of serving patients, I think the way that medicine traditionally was set up to be, meaning that like my times with the patient and appointments weren't dictated by like insurance. And I could spend as much time educating the patient or supporting the patient, doing everything with them for as long as I really needed. And I practiced that way for almost 9 years. And so when I transitioned to practice because of a move here to Colorado, I realized that that is the exception and not the norm. And so initially I got my feet wet and I tried at one practice and I was like, oh, like this is so different. And I worked at a couple different practices and realized that like I just was so spoiled. But I realized that in my first practice, where I practiced for 9 years, regardless of the patient outcome, regardless if the couple was able to walk away with, with a baby, they felt so taken care of. They felt so heard in the process, and they had a clear understanding of what was going on, why they were doing everything. And that made such a difference in their journey. Like very rarely did I have like an upset patient or an angry patient. On the other side of things, like I felt like I was constantly putting out fires because I had like 7 minutes to sit with the patient who had a miscarriage, right? You can't counsel a patient through all her treatment options, let alone support her through this terrible thing that just happened in 7 minutes. And so that it was essentially like a really bad day at work that's started Fortitude Fertility Consulting, where I just realized that my patients, my friends, my family members who were struggling with this deserved better. They deserved to have like an ally on this journey that was not only optimizing their fertility on the front end, so control, like helping them control what's within their control to get pregnant, but guiding them through the things, the clinical process as well, and answering all their questions and just being sure that someone was constantly in their corner, that they didn't feel like a number in this like big cogwheel of medicine.
So tell us a little bit about what your business does. Like, did you open a fertility clinic where you're like treating people medically, or what are you doing in your business?
So I fall more in like the consultant educator space. So I'm not actually using my PA license. I'm just using the information that I've learned from like years and years of working as a fertility PA on both the male and the female side. And I am essentially kind of coaching and providing foundational education and lifestyle, optimization, those types of things. But I'm not diagnosing. I'm not, interpreting things. It's primarily education, consulting, and a lot of advocacy work because, as you know, the healthcare system's incredibly complex, and so many people, especially like the guys coming into this, have never seen a doctor outside of their pediatrician. And so helping them navigate all of that is a huge part of what I do as well.
And when you say advocacy, you're talking about like the patient advocate, which is
correct.
Which is another thing that PAs can do, where you're really just helping people navigate this complex system. I'll put a link to that video I did up there where I interviewed a PA who became a patient advocate. So you're there helping people, giving them information, helping to educate them, and I assume also supporting them emotionally and as they're going through this?
Absolutely. Supporting them emotionally and also kind of be like their accountability partner throughout this process too, because oftentimes like what I'm sharing with like lifestyle and things like that it's not rocket science, right? They're probably
Mhm.
told by, someone along the way or given a pamphlet, but giving a pamphlet and then taking action from that pamphlet is the challenging part. And so breaking it down in a way that's actually tailored for them as a couple, like oftentimes they have tried everything or they've Googled all the things and have started it for like 3 days and then gave up on it. But, taking a more personalized approach and saying, like, as a couple, these are the fertility challenges or risk factors that I'm identifying. Let's be sure that we're taking a strategic approach so that you both can, do things that are going to move the needle, but also like do them so that they're not overwhelming. I don't need you to do 30 things at once. I need you to do 5 things really intentionally, but also being their emotional support because at the end of the day, like having fertility challenges can blow up marriages, even to the best and strongest of couples. And so helping them with their communication and building up the emotional resilience throughout this process, because no matter where you are in this journey, something isn't going to go according to plan. And having the tools to navigate that is the biggest thing that I can give these couples.
So you recognized that there was this kind of disconnect and you wanted to be able to help patients like you had before. But how did you make that leap from identifying that to actually making the business? Like how did you figure things out? I know you can't take us all through every
Yeah.
step, but just in general, like what did you do moving forward?
That's a fabulous question. So, as you know, they didn't teach us anything about running a business in PA school. And so it was initially, I like to call it my cute little side hustle project. So like after I put the kids to bed, I would just like Google for hours. But I constantly felt like I was just like spinning my wheels because there's so much to learn about running not only a business, but like an online business or a virtual business that just was out of my skill set. And so I did end up hiring a coach, someone who can help me like navigate this process, which was, I think, so foundational. And I continue to kind of work with a coach to this day because it really would take like a full-time job to like learn about how to make the business. And that's not what I'm passionate about. What I'm passionate about is being able to serve and support my clients on a regular basis. And like the admin stuff, I just need someone to tell me, okay, this is what your next step is. Like, go do it. Like I am, I feel like a lot of us in medicine are go-getters, right? Like we thrive off of like checklists and can like,
Yeah.
get stuff done, right? And so as long as we have someone telling us what to do, that's fine. But the disconnect and where I struggled for, gosh, like a solid 6, 8 months was like knowing what even needs to happen in order to to do the thing. Like I can do the
Right.
thing all day, but I can't. I don't know. So
Yeah.
it was a struggle, to be honest, and that's
Yeah.
why hiring a coach was probably the best decision I made.
And I imagine some of the help that you got from coaching was is realizing that this isn't crazy, that people make online businesses, right? And that
For
in
sure.
the health space, there's room for this, right?
For sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the struggle that I had, at least initially, was that like I put myself in a box. Like as a PA, this is the box I get to be in. I get to, work for a company and serve patients. And that was great. But I never even dreamed that like I could consider owning my own business and I could create this flexibility that I've been wanting and I could show up and serve patients the way I want to serve them. And so I think so many PAs right now are kind of struggling with that feeling that like they're in this box that they know that they could do more and they just have no idea what that is.
Hey there. Sorry to interrupt the interview. I'll just be really quick because I know a lot of you may be feeling inspired right now by Jessica's story, but you don't know where to start. You don't even know how you find a coach to help you do this kind of thing. Well, I am excited to share with you a coaching resource that can make a huge difference. It's called Escape the Clinic Idea to Income, and it is a course run by a fellow PA entrepreneur that provides a step by step roadmap for you to help clarify your ideas, start creating your unique products, and build the online business that you've been dreaming of. So, if you are feeling excited, don't let your great ideas stay in your head. Take a look at this video that I've linked in the card above, which is an interview with the PA who created that course, or click the link in the description box below to learn more information. Down there, you'll also find a special code for a $50 discount off of the course just for my viewers. Okay, let's get back to the interview. I see people in social media saying things like, oh, I wish I had become a PA or an NP. It's so limiting. There's not anything else we can do. Mostly it's PAs saying that. And I'm like, there's a ton of things that we can do.
There's a
And so,
ton of things.
yeah,
Yeah.
I wonder, do you find it difficult to walk that line where you're not dipping into giving medical advice because practicing as a provider is not necessarily just prescribing medicine or doing something specific, but actually creating a plan of care beyond lifestyle coaching type stuff. Do you ever have a hard time straddling that line and making sure you don't cross it, or does it seem pretty delineated when you're actually doing it?
It's tough. Initially, I had a bigger struggle with this because I was like so worried about like the medical legal things and not crossing lines and all of those things. But over time, I've come to realize that like every single one of the patients that I'm working with have at least one provider, if not two. And I think where I can shine is writing like letters of collaboration, saying like, hey, I'm working with this person to help them with support and advocacy on this journey. Like based on their history, I've, seen this. Would you just wanted to let you know that they shared this with me? And, this is what I've seen from prior experience. And so oftentimes it's not seen as like medicine, but just like bringing everybody in together and being sure that there is someone who's overseeing everything, instead of relying on like the male fertility specialist to communicate with the female fertility specialist. I can loop everybody in, and be sure
Yeah.
nothing's getting missed there.
That's awesome. And so do you carry malpractice insurance, or is it really a different kind of liability insurance that you
It's
carry?
more like professional liability insurance. Yeah.
Is it all online, or do you have like kind of a clinic or office that people come to?
Yeah, right now everything is online. One day I would absolutely love to have like a brick and mortar type practice because I thrive on in-person connection, and a lot of the clients I attract also thrive on that. But also it allows me to work with people all across the state, all across the country, and kind of they can squeeze things in on like lunch breaks and all of those things, as you probably have
Yeah.
experienced with like telemedicine as well.
It definitely is convenient, and people are getting more used to it, but it does lack that in person, being able to hold somebody's hand or to just
Absolutely.
look
Yeah.
them eye to eye. And so, are you doing your business as a full time business now, or are you still working part time clinically?
Yeah, I'm still working 1 to 2 days a week part-time clinically. I did take about 7, 8 months off to really get like the foundations of my business squared away, and a true like marketing strategy. That way my business can essentially run a little bit on autopilot, while I'm in clinic. And then I have, 2 days a week that I work with clients, and then like a admin day, so to speak. So putting it all together, it's a full-time job.
Was that a choice that you still wanted to practice clinically? And what I mean by that
Yeah.
is if somebody was to do this full time as a business,
Mhm.
would it be able to financially make sense? Like, can you replace a PA or NP income doing this?
Totally. I just chose to still practice. I'll probably always still practice on some level, mainly because in Colorado, the PA laws aren't super favorable. So if you have more than a 2-year gap in
Mm.
practice, you have to go through like all these hoops in order to get your license
Wow.
reinstated. I also just want to be sure I'm staying like clinically relevant. As the fertility consultant and IVF strategist, I'm still diving into the research and looking at articles and things like that. But I feel like being able to practice on some levels kind of forces me to kind of switch into that brain more often instead of kind of getting bogged down in the details of my business. It kind of creates that space in my schedule.
And so what other things have been a bit of a challenge on the business side? Like at first, you said it was like not even knowing how to put this all together.
Yeah.
But once you've put it together, like do you have staff concerns? Is it difficult working from home and being disciplined to do the work, or anything else that's come up that's a struggle?
There's a few things here. So as a PA, I love showing up, and my schedule is like, my patients are prepped like ideally like a day beforehand, and I just show up and I serve my patients, and that's that. And that doesn't happen in business. Like If
Right.
you are not like doing the marketing and like doing all the admin stuff, like no one's just going to show up on your schedule. And so that was
Right.
the biggest challenge. Like I felt like I approached my business being kind of like the best kept secret. Like I didn't want to put myself out there. Like I would lean on my colleagues and like friends and family members to like put the word out, but like that was my marketing. But that's not marketing. And so what was surprising to me was like all the work that I had to do for myself in order to kind of gain the confidence and kind of shift that mindset that this isn't just like my side hustle that I'm squeezing in. Like I'm actually like showing up and these are clients that I'm serving and
Right.
putting that same amount of effort that I would put in to like showing up as a PA into my business. I don't know why that took me like months to figure out, but showing up with that like CEO mentality was like a huge pivot point in my business. The second thing was just systems, like having an organized like way that your business runs. If you're doing anything more than once, like it should be documented as an SOP, just like you would in clinical practice. And there should be a template and, a way for someone else to kind of look in your business and figure out how to do that thing. And that took me forever to do.
And was that something that the coaches helped you with, figuring
That was
that stuff
something,
out?
yeah, that
Yeah.
was something that the
Yeah.
coaches helped me with. I mean, I literally spinned my wheels and did so many things that were
Right.
unnecessary for so long.
It's easy in business because you have so many things you have to do to kind of just be ping-ponging all around, and not be focused and, like you said, almost reinventing the wheel, although I feel like that happens in medicine a lot too. So many times in medicine, I felt like, "Why are we acting like this is the first time we've ever
We've
seen
done this,
this
right?
problem or this issue?" But yeah, so it's great to have somebody help you figure that out and get going. I'm curious, like, how did you first start getting clients and how do you get them today?
Yeah, so I had this like string of women in my space, whether they were like friends, family members, acquaintances of friends that were reaching out. They're like, I am just struggling. We met with the fertility clinic and I just don't know if this is like the right path for me. And so it was like five people in a row that called me over the course of like 3 weeks. That was like, okay, this like really needs to happen. And so a lot of my initial clients were like word of mouth. And they still continue to be word of mouth because
Right.
working with people in the fertility space for so long, I have a lot of connections, which is amazing. So I feel really, really supported by the colleagues that I do have. And then, social media was the big thing that I had to get over. Still working on my mindset with that. I love educating, love talking. I go to conferences a lot. I think that's actually where we met.
Yeah.
Mhm.
At
So
AAPA, yeah.
yeah, I attend conferences and speak at things, which I love to do, but the social media part is challenging. And so
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm focusing right now in terms of building up my skill set there.
Social media is challenging in many ways, and not everybody wants to put themselves out there. But I would encourage people, if you're watching and thinking about a business, that there are many ways you can show up on social media,
Totally.
and it doesn't have to be you front and center all the time.
Mhm.
But also to realize that when else in history have you had such an opportunity for basically free, other than your time, and maybe a few programs you use to help you, build the stuff behind the scenes, but to reach
So
people
many
all
people.
around the country and the world,
Mhm.
for free. Like you can pay to run ads, but you don't have to. You can use social media for marketing. So it's it's a difficult thing. It's not easy. I wasn't in social media before I started this YouTube channel, but it's I guess a necessary evil nowadays, but it's also a blessing. But it doesn't make it any easier
It doesn't, and
though.
I think you're so right that there is a way for you. I think the problem for me was that I didn't know how I felt comfortable communicating with people. Like I had this like I don't usually use social media for like my personal life, and so like
Right.
social media was just like I like the tech scares me, everything scares me.
Yep.
But once I figured out how I like to communicate with people, then it became easier. Like I was able to find something that like make me feel aligned. So you don't have to be
Yeah.
like doing crazy TikTok dances or anything like
Yeah.
that. So anyone who's
Exactly.
listening, like you don't have to do all the trendy things in order to kind of connect
Yeah.
with people. You just have to show up and be authentic and be
Yeah. Be
confident
yourself.
and be
Yeah.
yourself.
And I was thinking too, when you were talking about when I was asking you about finding your clients that come in, Are you dealing with insurance at all, or can you bill insurance, or is this cash pay? And do you have any struggles with that?
Yeah, so I don't bill insurance. I don't use any ICD or CPT codes, and so it's all cash pay. Some people do try to get reimbursement from their FSA or
Okay.
HSA accounts, and many of my clients have been successful in that front with like letters of medical necessity from like their providers, and so that has helped them. But I don't bill insurance, so it's all cash pay.
And I assume that people who are looking to solve this problem, I mean, I'm sure it's an expensive thing that they're going through, but I take it you don't get much pushback from people about the rates that you charge?
Not typically. Oftentimes they're just grateful to have someone in their corner, and they understand that they reached out to me because they don't feel like they're getting that level of care,
Mhm.
unfortunately, with their current care team. And so they just kind of see me as like an adjunct or an additional person in
Right.
their care team, just like they would if they were to go to massage therapy or like
Yeah.
acupuncture, those types of things.
You talked about possibly brick and mortar. Where do you see this business going? Like, do you have a vision for it growing and hiring staff and those kinds of things?
Yeah, I would love to hire staff down the road. Ideally, I would love for my business to focus more on like the IVF support side of things. And then down the road, my brick and mortar would be helping people on the preconception front. So helping more with like fertility optimization
Yeah.
and those types of things in person. That would be ideal. But I'd love to have, a network or a full spectrum of things because oftentimes the struggle I'm having right now is they love working with me so much that they're like, but now I have to go to my OBGYN. Like, can't you just like come deliver the baby with me? Like that would be you could be like my doula. It would be great. And so like big vision is just having this like super supportive network for my clients. That way they never feel like that whiplash of being seen so well taken care of and then like
Right.
thrown into the deep end and like hopefully you swim.
Yeah.
I try my best right now, but I would love to kind of grow my team so that we eventually have that full coverage of support.
And wouldn't that be cool? And this is what I hope people are who are watching this, who are providers, can get a vision for maybe something that they can do. So I can see, and this may be what you're saying, but starting from you started just from a need that people kept asking you about things, and you recognize a need, and you started doing some one-on-one counseling, and then you've built this bigger business, and now you're thinking about the future brick and mortar all the way up to being a potentially a business where you employ an OBGYN, you employ doulas, you employ nutrition counselors or, other people who understand fertility medicine and have different fertility counselors. I mean, there's no end in sight, right? I mean,
Right.
you can stop where you want, but the
Right.
potential is there to
Yeah.
do something amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and it's wild. Like, if you would have asked me 2 years ago when I started this business after a bad day at work, like, if I even had the courage to kind of dream of something that big, the answer would have been
Yeah.
no. Like, I mean, at that point, I was still struggling how to even find like and buy a domain name. I was more worried about like brand colors than anything,
Right.
which is so not important in the grand scheme of things. But yeah,
Right, but it's where we all start, right?
it's
We
where
think
we all
that,
start.
the name and the colors and the font we choose are gonna
Yeah.
to make the difference, but it takes time to develop
Yeah.
that vision and to start thinking of yourself as a business owner and start
Correct.
thinking of possibilities, and that's what I love to try to do on this channel, not only help people find their specialty that they might wanna work in, like we're gonna talk about fertility medicine in just a minute, but also to get them to understand that we are intelligent people. We
Hmm.
have lots of education. Most of
Yeah.
us have at least a master's, several have doctorate degrees. We are skilled at identifying needs and problems and figuring out how to fix them in the clinical realm, but we can take all of those skills and apply it outside. And I think part of the disconnect is that we almost, I think as PAs especially, we kind of feel like we need to ask permission. Like, is this allowed? Can I do
Yeah.
this? Instead of realizing that just because we have like a supervising physician still in most states, or that, our role is a little different than a physician, we need to change our mindset somehow to realize that we have all kinds of possibilities open to us. And it's just a matter of getting that vision and then finding the information on how to do it. Would you agree
Exactly.
with that?
I 100% agree. Like I said, the biggest thing that I invested in was just my mindset. And so much of that was needing to kind of switch from that, like, someone needs to hold my hand in order for me to
Right.
do this, to like I have the courage and strength inside me to like take this leap of faith and bet on myself. And I think especially as women, we struggle with that. A lot of the people that I know, a lot of the women I know,
Right.
we tend to put everyone else first and then take care and bet on ourselves last. And
Right.
so much of that reframing and mindset shift is what allowed for my business to grow. It was wild once I made that shift, what happened with the growth in my business.
Well, that is awesome to hear. And I wish you all the best and huge success in your business.
Thank you so much.
If you want to watch part one of the interview with Jessica, where she talks about the specialty of fertility medicine, click on this link here. Thanks for joining me. And as always, take care, stay sane, and I'll see you next time on the Medicine Couch. Bye.